Welcome back to the end of day two. What a fantastic day of Test cricket it has been, especially if you're an Indian cricket fan. Here we are, not only scoring 500 runs, but also taking 3 wickets by the end of day's play. It's all a dream, but here we are talking about it. A lot of things went in place, which is what we will talk about. If you're joining in for the first time, hit that like on the stream, like, channel, subscribe, and all of that. And if, yeah, that's the only.
And if you're interested in cricket, you've come to the right place because there's a lot to talk about, especially with the kind of batting that India had on display today, the
True.
kind of bowling that we had on display.
That is
We
true.
have a lot of segments that we will get into. There's technical breakdowns, there's how the day went, who stood out,
Yes.
lot of things that we also spoke about in the pre that came true. So you've come to the right place.
That is true. Hi RF, hi Rishit. Hey Rishit. Oh yeah, we've clarified. Hi Rishit. Hi RF, hi Asher. Yeah, Asher, I feel like it's been a while since I've called out your name. Hi
Hey, what's up?
Lokesh, hi Shrikant. Shrikant, not gonna lie. I look forward to your chat before we join our live. And then when you start chatting with others, it's even better. Hi Roy Chowdhury, hi Anonymous, hi Shivakumar. Talk about that ball to Washi from root. Yeah, we will talk about all of that. Interesting how
Lots to
Indian
talk
bowlers
about.
prefer swinging the ball and England prefer the wobble seam. I think it's also skill stuff. I think it's prefer in terms of what your strengths are. I mean, I don't think you would have seen James Anderson use wobble seam all that much. Hi Anirudh, hi Samir. Crazy day, man. Let's go indeed. There's a lot to talk about, a lot to dissect. We also
Way
have
too
few
much.
criticisms even towards the man who scored 250 runs, and we have a whole stat file dedicated to just Shubman Gill because those 250 runs did quite a bit to just our stat man, which is us and the internet. So, yeah, hi Rishi, hi Uncle VG. Yo, so we will let's wait for a little bit. We'll wait for a couple more minutes and then get into things, right?
But in the meanwhile, like the stream so that we can push it out to more people.
Also, we have an event coming up.
Oh, yeah, check pinned comment, guys. The slots are almost full, which is really heartening to see. But still, there's pending payments from some of you, so clear that soon if you're on the live. And in case you haven't received it, just reach out to me.
Yeah, but what's
Yeah.
what's the event about? And then we'll start off.
Awesome. So the event's going to be our first event that we are doing in the brand of Cricket by JB. We're going to be doing an event, a community event on Test cricket. The hope is to grow this community out. We're starting off with 40, 50 people, and we'll slowly increase that number. And yeah, it's just going to be a lot of fun. There is going to be a hot takes bowl. So we are going to discuss your opinions, however controversial they might be, or however classy they might be. It can go either way. We're going to have a quiz. There are going to be prizes. There's going to be a lot of food and a lot of goodies, hopefully. So yeah.
That's true. Hey, Divyansh, finally here live instead of streaming in the live way later. Good to see you here. Arvind, I did not miss out on your name. Raghu. Hi. Let's get into things. Let's get into the scorecard.
All right. So, I mean, there is no question as to what kind of day India has had. Eventually, India started the day at about 310 for 5, if I'm not wrong. And from there, they managed to get almost 600, eventually falling out for 587. Shubman Gill, the Prince. It's not something I like using, but I think the way he shaped up in this innings and just the way he batted, I think brilliant. 269 of 387. There is so much. Ashwin's distracting me, but there is so much that he did correctly. There's so many records he broke along the way. Ably supported by Ravindra Jadeja, adding to his overnight score, eventually falling for 89 of
Yep.
137, but a good hand. Washi too chipping in with some crucial runs. And after that, I think that is the more impressive part of this performance for me still, is India managing to pick up 3 wickets before
Yeah,
close of
that's
play.
true.
England 77 for 3.
All right, let's talk about merit in bread. It's Praatibh once again, the
Yeah.
positives of the Indian team.
All right, so there are so many positives today. So I'm only going to be talking about the batting front, and obviously we have to talk about Shubman Gill coming overnight from a score of 140, not even 140, then 20 odd I want to say, and almost basically doubling his score. That takes a lot of concentration. It takes a lot of skill, but also just the amount of concentration, the discipline to be able to choose which bowlers to go after. It helped that England weren't particularly looking to ball all that well. It helped that the pitch was very docile. There's not much in it for the bowlers, but still, for Shubman Gill to get 269 is no mean feat. He is India's highest ever scorer in a test match in England. That's crazy stuff. But I think even more than that, just the way Jadeja batted, especially coming into this test match, something that we've spoken about, I think for the past couple of lives now, where we also have a video on it coming out, where Jaddu might have felt a little bit of pressure going into this test because there were questions raised on his bowling ability and him not being able to contribute with the bat. Turns out all of us were wrong. The selection so far with India elongating the tail has seemed to work because both Jaddu as well as Washi getting runs. Because we've got 3 wickets up front, looks good right now, but time will tell. But yeah, I think overall great performance from India with the bat. And honestly, there's not much more to add. There's not much in the pitch, but India ensured that they were able to take the attack to the opposition. They did it well.
All right, that's with the bat. Let's talk about India with the ball. I think we started off with, I think it was the last day of the first test match with us praising Siraj, but how we went on to lose the game. The good part here is it's the second day, it's the first innings of India coming into bowl, and Akash, Deep, and Siraj have started extremely well. I will emphasize on Siraj in a bit, but it was very heartening to see Akash Deep starting off with a new ball. He just starting off with his first over and not following up with Siraj. I think I was surprised by it, but it was just good to see Akash Deep starting. I think because of his footing, there were a couple of deliveries that he was stringing it down the leg side. But the fact that he was able to get it right up there to Crawley, even when he gave away those 11, 12 runs in the first over, this is exactly why Akash Deep was selected to bowl full, to bowl in those fuller areas. But leave Crawley aside. The second he started bowling to Ben Duckett, I thought he was spot on. It was short of good length. It was the very uncomfortable zone for Crawley, where not Crawley, for Duckett, where Duckett. My God, where Duckett just uses hands, not much feet, and that's exactly what happened. Him getting Duckett's wicket, I think, just started off well for the Indian team. And something I do want to note, something I do want to talk about is the fact that how the Indian bowlers got a lot more swing than the England bowlers. Even in the first innings on day one, the England bowlers were getting a lot more seam movement, whereas the Indian bowlers, especially Siraj, as much as he uses the wobble seam quite a bit, he was presenting the seam so beautifully, trying to swing the ball out. I don't think there was a stat, but the commentators were talking about how the Indian bowlers did get a lot of swing and a lot more swing than the England bowlers. And something I do want to appreciate is the captaincy bit, right? So Shubman Gill, of course, scored those 250 runs, but he's in the squad not just as a batter, but also as a captain. The fact that every ball that was straight down the leg side, okay, right. I won't even say it straight down the leg side. I would say it as if the Indian bowlers were trying to bowl more stump to stump. I say this because the field was also set for it. They had a deep fine leg, they had a deep mid wicket, and every time the ball was around the pads and they were clipping it, they were only clipping it for singles and not for boundaries, unlike the first test match. That is because the Indian bowlers were trying to bowl it more stump to stump. We saw Ollie Pope's wicket where Akash Deep bowled it a lot more fuller, and Ollie Pope tried to nudge it towards mid wicket and got caught. And I think all of these make such a big difference, especially with Siraj starting off. And this is what I wanted to talk about. Like emphasize on the fact that Siraj on the first innings with India bowling started off extremely well. And it is so great to see, especially with the absence of Jasprit Bumrah, the fact that Siraj just started off. The fact that the opening bowlers had a 14 over spell says so much about control and how the Indian bowlers were going about bowling and the fact that they got those 3 wickets. 14 overs. I don't know the last time the Indian opening bowlers had such a long spell from both ends, 7 overs each. And it was just great to see. It was great to see both of them control. Akashdeep doing his thing. I thought he did lose it in the end, but he's a tired man. It's his first match in this. Siraj, the workhorse that he is, continued to hit those line and lengths. I was very impressed with both of them. I think both of them did their job extremely well with the new ball. Let's go to the splits and Brits because, of course, we have to criticize the Indian team.
All right, so splits versus Brits is a bit on the negatives. And for a day where almost everything has gone right, we are going to be a little nitpicky because obviously it's very tough in cricket to have a perfect game. And there's a couple of things that stood out. Firstly was Washington sir, in terms of how he batted. Of course, for the runs that he scored, he did play well. He bid his time, and I think with all of the short ball ploy to him and everything, he eventually managed to eke out a few runs. He batted well, all right. But there's a technical bit we'll get to with Washington Sundar in terms of how he played the bouncer and how that could have ended very badly for him. So that's one thing. Eventually, he got out to root, which I felt like it was a bit uh, uncalled for. I feel like he could have played that better.
Yeah.
He kind of played inside the line. Could have been a lapse of concentration. Maybe I'm just being a little nitpicky.
It was a good ball,
It
also.
was a good ball, no doubt about
Yeah,
it.
played
But
inside the line though. Yeah.
yeah, it's actually very interesting because I was on Twitter just scrolling through cricket tweets because that's what I do, and people were talking about there's actually a really good analyst, and he was talking about how he believes a lot in using a part-time bowler, especially when there's a big partnership, because what happens is a batter tends to take it a little easy, especially when they've been focusing for such long periods of time. When you see a bowler like a Root or even a Harry Brook today, it is very easy for the batter to just take it lightly, which I felt like Sundar might have done in hindsight. But again, this is being extremely
Yeah.
nitpicky. It was still a really good ball, so that's one thing. Apart from that, Gill's dismissal, if I'm being extremely harsh, extremely nitpicky rather, extremely critical, that was a lazy shot because the plan was set for him. The plan was set for the short ball. There were two fielders in catching positions.
And
There
he
was
plays the short ball extremely well.
there was a deep fielder as well, and he just kind of bunted it straight to, I want to say, short
Short
square
square leg,
leg.
yeah,
Yeah.
forward square.
So yeah, Gill, considering the fact that literally nobody was able to touch Gill the entire day, it was only his fault that could have got him out. But yeah, again, no complaints. He's got 269 quality runs. So that's on the negatives. There's one last thing, and that's for a very small period of play where India came into ball. Gill was off for the first over. KL Rahul was the captain. India initially started off with, I want to say, 3 slips. And from there were a couple of boundaries in that first Akashdeep over. And these guys, KL Rahul was, I think, on field captain, and he took out a slip, which is a negative in terms of the kind of mindset that some of the players might still have. Because when you scored almost 600 runs, it's okay if your team is going to go for a few boundaries. That's completely
Especially in the
fine.
first over, yeah.
Especially in the first over, when you don't even know what the new ball has to offer, what the bowlers have to do. They haven't even settled into that over, and so that was a little on the defensive side, and that's not something India will want to do or give across in terms of messaging even. But again, like, this is probably just some stuff to make Akashdeep feel a little comfortable and settle into his. But that's that.
All right, let's go talk about oh what a grit, and that is moments of the day. I think the first one has to be Akashdeep starting off with the new ball. I was pleasantly surprised. I wouldn't have been sad if Siraj started off with the new ball, but Akashdeep especially because 600 runs on the board. It's his first test match of the series. It's his first test match in a bit. He's coming off an injury. Of course, he played the IPL and all of that, but in the Border Gavaskar Trophy after that he got injured, and then he played the IPL, gets selected here. It's just good to see him start off with the new ball. No pressure, especially scoreboard pressure, because your batting side, as in your batters, have just scored almost 600 runs. So that is one moment of the day. The other, again, the umpire, I forgot his name. He's so reluctant to give an out. We saw this go India's. We saw this go in India's favor, and even a Harry Brooks dismissal or not went in England's favor, where it was the umpire's call and he wasn't given out. In the 9.1 over mark, it would have been a 4 wicket by the end of day's play, but Harry Brooks survived. It was just, it's those small things that matter. Another thing, I mean, I know it's not the segment, but something I did want to emphasize, something I did want to talk about, is of how Siraj, even when he had that long follow through going towards Harry Brook, he didn't talk. He just put his head down, went back to his bowling run up because he knew he was in good flow. He had the rhythm. He was running in extremely well, and I think it's not the moment of the day, but just moments where Siraj just put his head down, focused on his bowling, and had fun with his bowling. And we also saw rewards coming his way. So that's, oh, what a great. Let's go to credit for the bit, and that's the player of the day.
There can be only one player of the day. He was also a player of the day
Yesterday,
yesterday.
yeah.
And rightfully so, Shubman Gill gets this award from us. Congratulations, Shubman Gill. But yeah, once again, I cannot emphasize enough. I'm so keen to get into the kind of records he's broken today, but we have a separate section for that. But yeah, like, once again, Shubman Gill just playing a generational knock, to be honest. It's India's seventh highest ever score in Test cricket history. He was on for 300, let's be
Yeah.
honest. Honestly, I think a lot of us, even on comms, thought that he is going to get it. So, as an Indian fan, feels a little bad that he couldn't, especially doing it in England, where people, I mean, batting's gotten easier, but people haven't been able to put the biggest scores.
True.
So, yeah, Shubman Gill for that.
And this is why we go to quick wit and Brit, which is a whole segment of what Shubman Gill's done with this 250 plus.
I just want to read the heading before we get into it, and I want you guys to read it as well. Gill grits the wits out. Gill grits the wits out of Brits.
The fact that you struggle to read it says something.
Yeah. All right. So let's get into the records that Gill has broken with this 269. Firstly, this is the highest score by an Asian captain in England. He's only the third Indian to score a double century in England. He's the first Indian captain to score a double century in England. He overtook Azharuddin today. He's the first touring captain to score a double hundred since 2003 in England.
Last time was Graham Smith in
Last time was
2003.
Graham Smith, yeah. He's the first Asian skipper to score 200 in England. And this is the highest score for an Indian in England. He's broken practically every record there was to be broken today with bat.
I think he's also the highest scorer in Sena countries for an Indian,
Very possible.
overtaking Sachin Tendulkar's 240 odd, I want to say, in MCG, if I'm not wrong. I don't even think that's an MCG. I think that's an SCG. One of the G's. But
Ashwin's done a video on it.
yes, I should know the score. But I think Gill was also, yeah, the highest scorer for an for an Indian bat in Sena countries, but I might be wrong there. Let's go to the rest of the stats. This is the fourth time England have conceded 500 and more, and this is something to worry about as an Indian fan because they've conceded 500 and more 4 times, and they have won 3 of them.
Yeah,
So
basically 3 out of 3. This is the fourth time.
yeah, so it says something about England and how they love to bat and chase those big targets. And only Steve Smith and Graham Smith have 200s at Edgbaston. Jaddu misses out by 11 runs. He was close enough to get there. He would have been with the likes of Graham Smith and Steve Smith. There's something about why he
Unfortunately,
didn't get there. Maybe.
Jadeja isn't a Smith.
Yeah, that's true. All right, that's been the quick wit in Brit. Let's talk about the technical tidbits, the interesting stuff.
All right. So this is what I was talking about earlier is on Washington Sundar and how he was playing the short ball. So, firstly, the plan that the English bowlers came out with right from the very start, it seemed like there was an inclination to ball short balls. Especially Josh Tongue right before lunch when he started bowling those short balls, he looked extremely potent because these short balls are very well directed. What you'll see in this frame and a lot of the deliveries that especially Washington Sundar faced was that the balls were almost all near his neck region, which meant that they were obviously tougher to get out of the way of. Also, because Josh Tongue has that extra bit of zip. Now, the problem here with how Washington Sundar was playing is firstly, his eyes are not on the ball, which is not how you want to play any kind of delivery, especially a bouncer. And obviously, it's easy to say the ball comes fast, but this is what these guys practice for. The second thing here is even if you are going to be taking your eyes off the ball, you want to make sure that your gloves and your bat are out of the way. That this is how Jadeja also got out, where he kind of ducked right into it, and his gloves were still somewhere near his face. Washington Sundar narrowly missed it because he was able to kind of just get his gloves down a bit in time. But this is essentially how you don't want to play the bouncer. You want to ensure that even if you're getting hit on the body, you're taking your bat out of the way, you're taking your gloves out of the way. A great example of this is Cheteshwar Pujara, especially how he played in that BG. Yeah.
That's been how Sundar plays the short ball. I have a question for you. Even when Jaiswal was batting and even when Sundar was batting, a lot of commentators were talking about how it's more difficult to play the short ball if a right-hander is bowling over the wicket rather than around the wicket. Why is that?
I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. So the reasoning for why over the wicket might become tougher, especially in the case of a Jaiswal and something that Ashwin's also spoken about, is the blind spot. So when you're wearing your helmet, it's actually a pretty chunky thing to have on your head. And when your head position is not exactly straight, when your head is starting to fall over and things like that, that blind spot just becomes bigger. And if a bouncer is well directed, it's coming right in that blind spot. That's why even bodyline stuff to play because it's in the blind spot around the rib cage. That's one reason why over the wicket might be tougher.
All right, there you go. That's the short ball stuff. I am going to criticize Shubman Gill. Is what I've decided to do today. And I think it's very nitpicky, but it's something Shubman Gill can actually think about going ahead when he plays the reverse sweeps. As much as his reverse sweeps did connect, it went for a four and all of that. And he was batting well. He was seeing it like a football. But there are a couple of things that I do want to talk about. When you see the reverse sweep, something that is very, very evident is the fact that how Gill's head, and we talk about head position quite a bit on this channel. We made a lots of video on batters and the head position. even on our lives, when we talk about batters, we talk about head position. And it's very important because your head leads the way, right? And so when Shubman Gill plays the reverse sweep, it's a lot to do with his hands, and it's his hands that are free flowing, which is great. Except there were moments, especially in the couple of reverse sweeps that he did play, where he didn't middle the ball. In fact, he got some part of the bat which went for a boundary, but it could have on another day, he could have missed the ball, he could have been LBW, because even the lines in which Shubman Gill decided to play the reverse sweeps, I didn't think sorry, was very clever. Shubman Gill was playing the reverse sweep. It almost felt predetermined in the sense that he will play a reverse sweep regardless. So every time, so there were occasions where Shoaib Bashir was pitching it on the middle stump or middle and off stump, and Shubman Gill went for that reverse sweep, which I thought was very dangerous and risky. On another day, he could have missed the ball, gotten out LBW. But I started off talking about the head position because you want to be over the ball. You want to play your sweeps when your head is above the ball because you have more in control. Again, on another day, if there was if there was even a little bit of extra bounce, it could have easily hit the glove and taken off, and he would have gotten out with the slips or the keeper. And I say head position because if he's above the ball, if his head is above the ball and more in control, he could basically maneuver the ball even if the ball bounces quite a bit. So even when his reverse sweeps have been successful, I think this is a thing to think about and keep a note of how Shubman Gill can get better at these reverse sweeps if he's trying to play more and more often, I guess. All right, so let's talk to you guys. This has been what we've taken away from
This
test match.
pitch.
Let's talk to you guys, right? By the way, even in 21 to 24, he played some good innings in England and South Africa. Who are we talking about? I think you guys are talking about Virat Kohli actually, because even this Virat Kohli would smoke it, right? So a lot of people are talking about if Sehwag had this pitch, he would have scored.
Sehwag.
Yeah,
Oh,
he would have scored 500. If Virat Kohli would have had this pitch, he okay. So the other argument is that Virat Kohli scored his 100 bowler friendly conditions.
right.
That's the other argument. And someone else, I forgot who, said that Virat Kohli would have given a catch to slips, and we finally got a better number 4. And so a lot of extreme takes. My question to you is, what's your take on when people say that if this batter had played in this pitch, they would have scored so many?
It's all what ifs and what nots and buts and ifs and buts, and it just doesn't make sense. It's a useless argument because that player is not actually there, not actually playing. So it just becomes a very hypothetical thing that you can't actually quantify, and you especially can't compare because no two variables are the same.
There you go. That's your answer. Why Bashir have so many variations that do just goes for pure speed? I don't agree with this. I
Mhm.
think where Shoaib Bashir has matured is the fact that he knows his limitations. He knows
True.
he has a cannon ball which he's developed right now, and he knows the only thing he can do apart from that is his off spin, which is what Jadeja does, and both of them vary pace. If anything, Shoaib Bashir has become better in varying his pace, and Jadeja is struggling as of yet with varying his pace. But Shoaib Bashir doesn't have a lot of variation. He has a leg spin, which has yesterday won a cannonball.
And I think it's a bit naive, or I don't know how to put it in a better way, but when we think of Jadeja and we think that he has only the one delivery,
That's true, yeah.
there is actually a ton of variations that he has. Not only does he have pace variations, he also has seam variations in the manners in which he grips the ball. So he's still bowling in the same manner, but the seam positions will come out different. So that could lead to top spin or overspin, side spin, a lot of things that I don't want to get into right now. But yeah, that then using the crease, you'll see him sometimes coming very close to the stumps, sometimes very wide of the stumps. His arm, sometimes it'll be higher, sometimes it'll be from the side. There's a lot of way.
All right, so there was a theory we were talking about why the Indian team went about this squad, which is something we should have talked about earlier. But
Hmm.
here is out, right? So this is a very retrospect theory if you think about it. So pre-match, before the toss, actually after the toss, we talked about how this has to be one of the most defensive decisions to go with a deep batting lineup and to not have 5 specialist bowlers or at least 4 specialist bowlers, right? And so something we talked about, and I think it was also contributed by a couple of people we talked to about cricket, is
That
is the fact that the reason India went so deep is because they wanted to eliminate the possibility of India losing. And by this we mean that they predicted, because we were able to score almost 500 runs the first test match. Did we score 500 runs?
no.
Yeah, almost 500 runs in the first test match. You would lengthen the batting lineup, because then if these guys contribute, the lower order will also contribute, like today, scoring almost 600 runs. taking taking India out of a possible loss, which would then mean that you're basically going into Lords still 1-0 up, because if you're taking out the loss factor, then India will probably draw the match, or right now we are in a position where we can win the match. So that is a theory that we came up with. The reason India went so defensive is they're looking to get a draw out of this game minimum and not lose, taking the loss factor out of this game, bat as long as possible, which is also why we didn't see India declare. I mean, the tailenders were batting, they weren't really particularly scoring a lot of runs, but they were taking time away from the game, and all of this made us think of how the reason India went so defensive is not to particularly win, but to take out the loss factor from the game.
There's also very another very interesting point. If I'm not wrong, I think it was Gaurav once
Yeah,
in where he spoke about how. So here's the thing with baseball, and this has been consistent: is whenever there are periods of play where things get monotonous, Ben Stokes is looking to change things. He's looking to spice things up, be it in the field settings or be it in terms of asking his batters to probably go extra hard. And with India batting so much time, for starters, it has weighed down the entire English team. They've been on the field for 150 overs,
true.
which honestly, I don't think they've been doing, or any team for that matter, has been doing much in the recent past. India today, having played 150 overs, is double of what they've been playing on average since about 2023 or
Yeah.
something like that. So it is a long time. The players are going to be tired. And when the players are tired, they're more likely to play rash shots, give their wicket away because the concentration levels are just not going to be there. That's something we also saw today. So, in addition to India possibly wanting to, from the start, play out a draw, maybe the tactic is just to bat for so long that you mess with England's psyche.
And something else he also talked about is how something that might possibly work with baseball is being defensive. And Australia did this very well in the Ashes, and they retained the Ashes. Setting defensive fields is what they did. But what the Indian team is doing is going with a very defensive mindset in terms of the playing 11 and batting out. I don't know if this is the way to go long term, but if this is a strategy for a 5 test match series so that you have your best playing 11 when Bumrah plays, I can understand it. I'm still not 100% sure if this is what they are doing, but if this is what they're doing, again, I don't know how I feel about it, because you want to play games of cricket to win. But then the argument always is it's a 5 test match series. You don't want to be 2-0 down while trying to win, especially without a Bumrah. So if this is what they're doing, and we will know probably post test match, like after the test match during the press conferences and all of that. So if this is what they're doing, well, kudos to
Kudos.
them. Like 4D chess.
Yeah, definitely is. Whoever's just joined in, I think Akshay has just joined in. Akshay, you're late, but lads, please drop a like. I think there's what 120 plus 130 viewers, just 30 likes. We need to get this number up to 75. Please do not forget to like. Push this live out to more people because we are making solid predictions that we are actually proud of. We'd like more people to see.
Ankit, I don't think it's defensive mindset. It actually is. Like, no one. I don't think anyone is surprised by calling it a defensive mindset. Everyone agrees with it. By elongating a batting lineup and shortening your bowlers, it is what it is. I'm not saying Washington Sundar may not get a fiver. He might just get, and this team might just work. But if you look at this team on paper, it is defensive. You're not going with specialist bowlers. So
True.
it's something to think about, I guess. Yeah, if India still somehow end up not winning this match from here, it will be a very sad day. Let's hope the rain forecasts are not a reality. I wouldn't be surprised if India don't go on to win.
I'd be surprised if India going to lose from
Yeah.
here. But yeah, like I think a win, exactly why we're talking about the 5 bowlers that we need. Because if India can't get the 20 wickets here, there is no way they're going to win.
Damn, a lot of you guys supporting the like. Thanks, Akshay. Me when Gambhir's all round tactics go well, I sleep. Me when Gambhir's all round tactics backfire. Real shit. Yeah, so it's a long term game, right? Like, how long can you play with these kind of playing 11s is the point. We saw this backfire against New Zealand, against Australia. But if the tactic, so you would usually want to see a test match per test match. But
Yeah.
if because of Bumrah and because of the other factors, of course, if they're looking at 5 test match as a strategy, saying we'll let the second test match go, we'll play for a draw, and then we'll look forward to the third where we can possibly win. If that's how they're going at it, it's a new way to look at things, I guess, because I haven't really seen any teams do that. But if it is what they're doing, and if it works out, then kudos to them.
Gamble. It is a gamble.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Aditya Suresh, let's go. And I will reply with India. Shrikant, I mean, that's the fun of it. What if you're gonna hypothetically talk of what would happen and how you would understand the player in the hypothetical? Oh, you guys are still talking about Sehwag and
I'm
Virat.
just very curious to know what this got. Is it still about the Sehwag thing? Because I saw a lot of Kohli slander and Kohli defense in the chat.
It's about how Sehwag and so not Sehwag. Sehwag
Kohli.
was one of them, but yeah,
Huh.
Kohli, how Kohli wouldn't have done something. Or thank God that you guys made the event before this test match. Otherwise, the entry fee would have been 269. Akshay, you're not even coming, is
Hey, Akshay, if you're in Bangalore, why aren't you coming?
he? Love the way Siraj ran in today. He almost got broke with the nip back. Exactly. I think that is what Siraj did extremely well.
Yeah.
I think in the last test match, he wasn't using his outswing enough, even when there was no outswing. I don't think the seam position was as prominent as it was today. It was this beautiful seam position. Reminded me of Bhuvneshwar Kumar and a seam position. Just everything behind that seam, and it was so smooth. It was good to watch. And in the fourth, fifth ball, he'll bring the ball back in because Siraj knows he can do that. Clever bowling, and that's not something you would always associate with Siraj.
And he also didn't get into any kind of verbal
Yeah.
confrontation with the batter. I'm saying there is a correlation there.
All these batters which are being talked about in the comments have actually batted more on the flat tracks in these WTC era, boys. So stop cribbing. Pre WTC pitches were flatter. Pre WTC pitches weren't necessarily flatter, but yeah, pre.
Yeah.
But again,
It has gotten tougher to bat.
yeah, but yeah, sure. But it doesn't mean that, right? If Shubman Gill batted in the 2000s, he wouldn't have made it into the squad. Let's just get that straight, right? So again, and this is me just wondering if that'll happen. That statement makes absolute no sense because Shubman Gill is not batting in the early 2000s and he will not make it in the squad because what, he was 5 or 6 years back then. So yeah, it makes no sense whatsoever. So like, why bother talk about it? Right. The comparison should be valid. You can't compare someone who is on his first tour as captain and as a number four to someone who literally spent most of his career in all formats as number four batter. That.
Sachin,
Yeah, but
are these guys talking about? See, in any case, if you're going to compare Gill and Kohli and talk about their England numbers, then Gill is by far the superior batter because he's almost got how many runs Kohli got in the 2018 series in 3 innings. So let's have some proper discourse
yeah, but yeah, again, oh, this is like a hot take thing. See,
Yeah.
this is exactly what we'll do
in the event.
in
Yeah.
the event, except you guys will also talk to us. Guys, if we get England all out tomorrow, do we ask them to follow us, or watch us at 2:45 p.m. tomorrow to know what India should.
If you want to know about the follow on, you got to follow us.
Love the way you guys pull these stats. Loving this new era of ICT. We're pushing England every day of every test so far. We could have gone up 1-0 easily. Washi will be key to the fate. Yeah, that's true. I think two spinners coming into play would be very, very interesting. So why Virat Kohli's average dropped after WTC began? I mean, there's a lot of reasons. I
I,
mean, why is Jaiswal averaging 50 plus in the same WTC era? I mean, so you can't pick a batter and talk about his average. Okay. I mean, it is a very difficult era to bat. No, I mean, no questions asked.
mm,
You can't pick one batter at the end of their career, talk about why his average has fallen.
uh,
I mean, Kane Williamson's standing straight up. His average is still high up there. Jaiswal average is 50 plus.
Joe Root's become better.
Yeah, Joe Root's become better. Yeah, so saying batting has become tough as shit as it's become easier when you compare.
Confused. See, okay, so there's this
Couple of
is
sides to this.
yeah, there's the statistical side and there is the side of the outliers. So if you're going to look at the outliers, then batting is easier because Joe Root has scored a gazillion hundred since 2020.
But statistically,
Statistically, the overall averages in the entire world have dropped.
I've not watched SG or Tiger Patodi, but Kohli is the second best player in my life. Oh, Shabazz.
Damn.
Wait, what about Sachin?
Probably the best.
I'm assuming. Have you considered him? Right. Do you think it'll be a good decision to play Wash at number 6 and Nitish at number 8? Because Wash is a solid batter. Plays number 3 for Tamil Nadu, that's true. Number 6 may be too early for Nitish, too much pressure.
My counter argument to that is that Nitish has got a safety in the BGT. So it's not that he can't handle pressure, it's not that he doesn't have the technique. Having said that, I did look at a stat today where Nitish's numbers at number 7 are pretty good, but everywhere else he will now. I don't know if it's just because the sample size is too small or because if there's actually something to that.
You know what the what the title's going to be after the live gets over? Still better than I've decided. Is what Rage bait is what we're going to do. Right. If Jadeja bowls much slower like the 80s rather than speed like the 90s, he'll be more effective, but he always goes fast to complete of mix-ups. Yeah, I've noticed this with Jadeja. I mean, him completing the over is a always thing.
Yeah,
But yeah, he's not slowing it a lot. He's not slowing it up, which
as
is
much
quite
as he is.
surprising. Yeah. I think he needs an Ash. I think Ash needs to text him and say, hey, buddy, you know how to slow it up. Of course, I said second best in my lifetime. First is, of course, my guy,
Fair.
Vasu. If Gill went on to make 300, do you think India should have declared while he was not out or just have given him the freedom to play in a T20 manner? Just bad until he gets out. I think the way with the tail batted, I don't think India were going to declare anytime soon. When Bumrah plays the next test, I feel Akashdeep should replace Prasidh Krishna. I don't know when the tall guy is going to find his rhythm.
I zoned out. I heard Prasidh Krishna and find his rhythm.
Watch out for a pre-match on the third test at
Third
2:30 p.m.
test, third day,
No, third test.
third
He's talking
test.
about next test.
Okay.
I truly believe Sai Sudarshan was dropped. Dropped for what? NKR and a stupid leave. Please tell me why I'm not wrong.
See, okay, so Shubman Gill.
Nitish Kumar played at number 8 during the century. Number 8.
Oh, interesting. But does he have better numbers at number 7?
I think he does. But anyway, please tell him why he's not.
See, because in the manner in which NKR left the ball today, Shubman Gill did leave the ball in the same manner a few years back in England. And a lot of people would have been doing the fact that Gill should not have even been there in the first. But here we are with Shubman Gill scoring 269. Maybe NKR can live up to that. Give them time. Now that he's in the squad, he was always going to come in because clearly Thakur was just out of favor. He did ball. Nitish even came as a change of ends bowler today. So he got to ball before Shardul balled in the last match. So yeah.
Aswin, as in me, Ashwin, because you've got the spelling right. Jaiswal struggled against New Zealand and South Africa, the only two difficult series. I'm not saying Jaiswal is the flat track bully, but it is obvious statistically that batting gets easy in flat conditions. Yeah,
100%.
yeah, I am not disagreeing with that. I think batting's gotten a lot tougher. Statistically, it's the toughest period to bat in. My only argument didn't start with the WTC cycle. It started a little earlier, is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Joy. Shubman's 269 is a tribute to his predecessor,
Predecessor.
at number 4.
Kohli. Cap number 269.
Imagine India win this and then go to Lords without Bumrah's essentially guaranteeing his spot in the last 2 tests. England gonna shit their pants. That's if even.
Yeah.
Guys, NKR is just one innings old in England. Give him time. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah. Gill gave tribute to. Did he? I don't know
Give
what
tribute to
Kohli.
by scoring those runs.
Right, Cricket with Sparsh. If Cricket with Sparsh is a YouTube channel, I think you guys should check him out. We're not sure, but you check him out if it's a cricket channel. Jadeja at number 6 and Gear at number 7. Nitish has a wider range of strokes to succeed batting with the tail. Jaddu lacks in that regard. Very interesting.
That's a good point. And do you have anything?
No, I think Jadeja should bat number 6. I think he should bat above Nitish Kumar Reddy regardless.
Yeah.
Which didn't happen yesterday, which we actually had a conversation about. What were you going to say?
I was going to say that even when he batted in Australia, first couple of innings where he scored those 40 odd was predominantly with the tail. So if that's something that's working for him, not a bad idea.
Yeah, fair. Hot take, NKR is pretty much useless outside of a tail hand hold up batter. Bowling is May. It's a hot take because it's still, he's very young into his test career. Guys, give him a chance. I think we are quite hard on him because is this supposed all-rounder and he scored a century in Australia. But I think we need to give him a little time.
I do agree, however, that with the ball, he's still far from anywhere close to what he might want to be or what India might need him to be.
Yeah, Akshay, you did check out Cricket with Sparsh, and according to him, it's a cool channel. So, guys, check him out. If it is cool, might as well. Do you think Kuldeep should have played? Yeah, I still think Kuldeep.
100%.
Karan should have asked Dear Cricket to give him multiple chances. Why are we not giving Arshdeep a chance? Because Akashdeep got a chance.
Yeah, because what Akashdeep did today. Next match, it depends on how Prasidh Krishna goes this game, and is going to come back next. Yeah, I wonder if Arshdeep gets a game this series.
I would correct myself. Jaiswal on my heart in Australia with 2 gritty 80s on spicy ones. More than his Perth 100, which proves he is world class. I agree with you.
I mean, as long as you are critical in your own.
Yeah, which is nice.
Yeah. always nice to read up.
Damn, cricket becoming like WWE now. Everyone got their unique celebrations. Who else got the?
I'm sure somebody would have
Yeah,
done
but that's true.
something.
Everyone has the unique celebrations. FF. Siraj should have bowled the last over, even though Prasidh Krishna trouble broke. To be fair, these guys had a 14 over spell, which is the longest in a very long time, is what I want to say.
They were deathed.
Yeah, 7 overs in a trot is no joke. And by the end of it, you saw them looking tired. And not tired because it was tiring, but because 7 overs is a long time to just give it your 100%. And because the day was coming to an end, every over that you will give yourself, you will give 100% behind the ball. 7 overs is no joke. And I think as much as Siraj was bowling extremely well, I wasn't quite disappointed by it. Wait till we get an entrance music, right? Boys, this squad is spineless. One, regardless, we win. We don't back players like Sai. We try to give a lot of cushion for batting when it's not needed. And where is support? Where is the support for bowlers, right? So we were talking about this. Like, I don't think this is a long term thing. I think this is a strategy used to draw out this test match. Hopefully, like at this point, I'm being the devil's advocate and supporting Gambhir, hoping that is what the strategy is.
I don't know if I can get myself to, but we leave aside the biases, then we analyze.
Right. 145 concurrent viewers for a test match live past midnight. Way to go, Sudarshan. Thank you so much. Appreciate that a lot. Yeah, 145 viewers is great.
Hey, just
Praatibh will complain
58
about the
likes.
likes. Yeah.
Can we step it up to at least 75? Come on, let's push this live out to more people, man.
All right, we have 45 minutes in. Talk about the event. We'll take one more question and then we'll close it.
Awesome. Cool. So for people who've just joined in, and if you're luckily in Bangalore, we are doing an event on the 5th of July from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. in Koramangala. So be there. It's going to be about test cricket. We will discuss this test match, obviously. We will have a hot takes poll. We will discuss your opinions. We'll have a back and forth. We'll have a quiz. And there's going to be a lot of goodies. This is the first event that we are doing as Cricket by JB under our brand.
Yeah.
And hopefully we start building out a cricket community just like the one we have online. We just want to take this offline, expand it, and just have a lot of discourse, proper discourse on cricket instead of just having the fan stuff and the masala. Just a new way of appreciating the game, a lot of storytelling, a lot of data, all of that. Just nerding out.
All right. The link is in the pinned comment and in the description. A lot of people are talking about take Joyce question, so we shall do that. Why did the ground staff not come on the ground for repair when the Indian bowlers were having problems landing? Which is a very interesting question because I thought they could come pat it down, but they didn't. I don't know if this is a thing that's not in the ground. I don't know why the umpires didn't intervene. Very interesting question. I wish I had the answer for it, but yeah, I was surprised that no one came onto the field to pat it down, and it's quite dangerous when you look at the replays of the bowler landing. Well, Joy, I have no answer for you, and everyone else who are excited with that question, we have no answer.
But solid question. Keep those questions coming. It gets a conversation going.
Exactly. Like, share, and subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like Sudarshan said, 140 people. End of days play, especially midnight, is great to watch
100 likes.
as a tennis cricket fan. So yeah, keep them coming. It's always great to see you guys. Tomorrow at 2:45, we will be back talking about pre-match, the strategies of the Indian bowlers, what they need to do, how Jadeja and Sundar might just be a little more effective, how the pitch will play about, a little more stats, a little more technique, a lot more to follow. Just before the day of the event where we will not have a pre-match. Goddamn.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Always appreciate the support. See you guys tomorrow at 2:45 p.m.